Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards. And we got JD here with us, man. You were out for a little bit, but we're happy to have you back, buddy.
I'm glad to be here. So
Yeah.
this is my highlight.
Yeah. Mine as well. I just cannot wait for Thursdays to get here because, yeah, I mean, JD and I was on the phone the other day and we were chatting. He's like, what do we got to do? Where do we got to get so we can actually do this full time all the time? Because I could deal easily by being in the studio every single day doing interviews and meeting the incredible people that we meet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we got a really special guest for you today. We have Amy Guerrero. Guerrero. Did I say that right?
You did pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Guerrero. Yeah. I should have took a drink of water before I said that because my tongue was sticking, but I wanted to make sure that I pronounced it right. So, Amy, I can't even remember how you and I connected. I reach out to so many people and I've got so many irons in the fire. Sometimes I have to have people remind me. Do you remember how you and I connected?
Yeah, I work with a lovely woman who supports me to make contacts in the world. So she's like my PR person and all of the things. And I think
That's right.
We started with Marie, and then you and I, went back and forth on email for a while and text message, and then we got to connect one day when you're at a coffee shop. Yeah.
That is 100% right. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me because that's what happened. And I reached out to you guys and Amy's the one that got back with me, or no, not Amy, but the other gal got back with me, and things started rolling from there. But
yeah, lovely.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself, so our audience gets to get a good idea of who you are.
Totally. Well, I'm a woman.
Well, that's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I love to really frame up the fact that I'm just like another human being, just like whoever's listening out there. I really feel like that's such an important part of like all of the things that we do together as a community that's choosing recovery. So that's something that I always just want to say, like, we are all human together. All of our stories are a little bit different, and we really get to, I stopped identifying so much with the way that I coped with my pain and really started to identify more with like the humanness of myself. And that's really what shifted everything as I became more and more conscious as on this journey of like, okay, I'm going to live abstinent from coping mechanisms that I used for a really long time that helped me feel safe and out of pain. So I grew up in Texas as a wee little child. And I grew up mostly with my grandparents because my mom split when I was very young. And so that was my original traumatic incident that happened in my life, is that like break in the secure attachment with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a full-time fireman, which, thank goodness he got that job because that was amazing work for him to do in order to support me. And then he got remarried when I was about 4. So I grew up in Texas. And then after college, I was the first person to ever graduate from college in like my bigger family system. So I've always been a trendsetter, a trailblazer, pretty rebellious little redheaded Mexican running around people I didn't really look like. I started my first business in high school. Like I really had that spirit of like, I'm going to do things differently. And I really attribute that from the trauma that I had as like a little kid, and that I learned a lot of resilience through the things that I was able to navigate and how I saw the world. So, there's so many blessings that come with the quote unquote worst things that happen in our life, including, my whole journey to live a conscious lifestyle, to be abstinent from alcohol and drugs, because I started using them at such a young age to cope with the energy
Yeah.
in my body. And, alcohol worked really more quickly than anything I'd ever, thought to try. And I didn't even realize I had that much energy in my body till I found something to calm it down. Right. I thought everyone lived in that state all of the time. And that's not how people live. But if you're
Yeah.
out there listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like, or I feel like I'm in terror, like someone's going to attack me all the time. Like, although that's natural to you, there is another way to live. And the substances worked for a long time. And then before I turned 40, I decided around 36, I started getting this thing of like, I'm going to heal all my trauma before I turn 40. And that's when everything really shifted. And I became chemically dependent on alcohol. And I had already been doing my trauma work for a pretty long time. And when I became chemically dependent on alcohol, I was like, I don't understand. Like, what's happening here? I was doing all the things. And it was really difficult for me. It was really difficult for me because it wasn't, I thought that it was exactly what was supposed to happen. And I fought it every single part of the way. Because first of all, it was my number one coping mechanism. And second of all, the way that I was being taught how to live a lifestyle abstinent from alcohol and drugs was creating more shame. And that's what I already had a lot of. And
Okay.
so choosing to be abstinent from alcohol and drugs has been my biggest teacher in finding who I am and learning to really stand my ground for what will work for me and what won't work for me. And to help me give me agency and confidence and self-esteem and power, because I was like, this isn't working for me. But I pretended as if it was, which was one of my biggest patterns. And I see it so often in the communities that we play in of, it's not working, but I want so badly for it to work this way that people stop taking agency for themselves and then start to just listen to whatever's told to them,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't resonate. And then that's what causes such high levels of, taking ourselves out in some way, whether it be my idea was like, if this isn't working for me and it works for everyone else's, and this is the only way for me to like live or I'm going to die, I was like, I'd rather die. So I really started on a journey of like, how do I get out of here?
Hmm.
And it was a tough couple of years of trying to take myself out, but things bigger than me were like, oh no, girl, we got plans for you. You're
Yeah.
gonna have a real spiritual awakening here and come home to yourself and then be able to share this with others. So that's uh, that's my big story.
And
without
that's
all the details.
well, we probably ought to get into some of the details anyway, just so our audience knows. But so let me get this straight. So you were drinking still, right? Started at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
But then by the time you hit the age of 40, that's when things really started imploding on you. That's when you were really dependent on feeling what you needed to feel to bury whatever was going on inside you, right?
It was actually 30 at the end of, well, about 36, 37 is
Okay.
when it started to become, and then I was full on chemically dependent. So I have been to bottoms of bottoms of bottoms, y'all. Like, it was very dire. I mean, I was in the hospital in those 2 years with alcohol. I couldn't, after I put it in my body, I was so dependent on it that the only way was hospitalization
Yeah.
because I became so, yeah, it was a thing. It was a really difficult time. It wasn't uncommon for me to have the wristbands of the hospital on me, but they hadn't totally detoxed me. And so I would just like leave the hospital and go straight to the liquor store with like no shoes on in San Francisco and, just buy more because that was the only thing that would like calm my body down because it was so dysregulated. So
Yeah.
it was a rough go.
And with you saying all this, I'm getting flashbacks in my head of what my wife went through, because the last, I guess it's been almost 5 years now. I mean, she's, and I got to give her props right now because here on December 9th, she hits 12 months sober. So she's doing so well right now. And I'm so proud of her. But I remember times when she would be so wasted, she couldn't stand up. And I remember going out there trying to get her to take her to LDS hospital, for detox. And she'd be out there drinking. And I remember one time that she was hiding it in the weeds and she was trying to find it. And she noticed that I was there, and it's like a Marine throwing his body on a grenade to sacrifice this. I mean, she was like, you ain't taking this from me, and I remember just trying to grab it from her. Finally, we got her to agree to go to detox, and she would not let me take her bag. And I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. So then I opened it up and I found bottles inside her bag. And she's taking this into detox. I mean, that's how bad she needed that, and it would just break my heart because we got in a lot of fights over it because, again, I didn't know how to handle it being on the other side. Both JD and have been on the other side, JD and I, and it's so hard to understand. We get upset, and we love this person and we care about this person, and we do the best we can to try to get them to understand. To get them to understand, if I'm saying that right. But again, we don't understand the pain, right?
Well, and in that situation too, when you're dealing with somebody that's in that state of mind, like the passion that you have for them to not be in that state of mind, because usually it changes personality, right? Like I was dealing with my wife and stuff through it, and it was like dealing with Miss, Jacqueline Hyde is what it was. It was like a complete different person. She would do things that she wouldn't normally do. She would say things that she would never say, do different things, and then actions, and that's where it becomes really hard. And like on my end of it, or like before getting into learning more about what we've done now, but back then it was like, I mean, I hit a point where I finally had to go to a point and be like, hey, if that's what you want to go do, like absolutely, like go do it, but not with me or the kids in your life. Like that's go on, I'll be your number one cheerleader if that's what it means, because like I can't do it anymore, because I would get so angry and so mad because I could not understand why somebody would go to that level, and it's really hard on that end, and getting really mad. And it wasn't mad and anger because I just want like, oh, hey, you gave me something new to bitch at today. Sweet. It was because I loved her so much, and the fact of what damage it was doing to her and to us. Like, I was like, this isn't a relationship. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We can really I would love to really break this down with y'all today. Because
let's do it.
I was literally crying about this yesterday. Because this is such an important conversation. And I just started a group program called Recover the Trust. And it's really based on these foundations of your nervous systems were tapped. And if you try to make logical reason of why someone's hurting themselves, there is no logic. But we try to treat this with logic because that's what the world has taught us to do. And it's such a difficult place. Like both of you, I feel you so deeply right now. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to go into that room with them. I wish I was local.
Yeah, we wish you were too.
Yeah, because this is such an important conversation that could support so many families to do it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it needs to be done differently, because I can't remember if it was the last 4 years was just hell. And I remember trying Al-Anon, and again, and I've said this many times on the show, we're not here to knock Al-Anon, because Al-Anon works for a lot of people and it has helped a ton of people. It just wasn't a fit for me. I couldn't, I went to 3 meetings, and after that, I'm like, I ain't stepping foot in another one of these damn meetings ever again. I didn't know where else to go. I had nowhere else to go. I was keeping things in, which was doing damage to me, as well as I was turning that damage back on her, you know. To hear people like yourself now, and since we've started doing this show, we have learned of other resources out there, and I'm going, oh my help, I wished I would have known about these when I was going through it, because maybe, just maybe, and of course, you know, my wife wasn't going to get sober till it was time for her to get sober. Had to be up to her, but I still probably could have made things a little bit easier on me as well as her if I would have known that these other resources were out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to talk a lot about the science of this from like, our bodies can only handle so much.
Yeah.
You know, like our nervous systems are running the show all of the time. Like we think that we're thinking our way through the world, but really we're only using our prefrontal cortex, that part of our brain, to identify what's happening outside of us 20% of the time. 80% of the time, we are taking it in through our bodies. So when you both are watching the women that you love, like, hurt themselves, your body's like, danger, 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 danger. And then your prefrontal cortex is like, just stop. I don't understand. Just stop.
Yeah.
And those words are sometimes the most damaging words that we can hear on the other side, because from our prefrontal cortex, we're like, well, of course I want to stop. You don't understand.
Yep.
Right. And then we get into this situation where we're trying to make each other understand. And no one's going to really understand it. But both of your bodies are just like, danger, 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 make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. And we have this coping mechanism of hiding things in the bushes. And by the way, I totally did all of those things. So I really did.
My wife's over here giggling. We're going to have to bring her in on the second half of the show. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. And, you know, that's like our way to numb the sensation of how, you know, the conflict that we're feeling. Like, we want to stop too. We can't. And you're like, just stop. And then exactly what you said, your nervous system isn't getting a break from it in any way. And so you're looking to try to cognitively understand it. And what we really want to do is be like, wow, everyone here is dysregulated right now. And how do we work through the body to support a down regulation so that then we can come together and start to really feel what's happening here and what's been happening here, you know, for many years, and then intergenerationally as well, because so much of this is just passed on one generation after another. But the way that our world is structured, we want to do everything from the lens of it has to make sense. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And it's not that clean. We can scrub it down, but this stuff is like, you know, it's not always ours that we're drinking over. It's not always yours that you're so upset over, right? And you don't know how to explain that because your body's just like, right? It's just feeling so much. And when we're feeling so much, we don't have access to the smarter parts of our brain.
Yeah.
So it's like no one's flying the plane and we're gonna crash.
No, and I get that just on a personal level. When you get into just in life, you know, life's so freaking crazy or gets really stressful. And but you know, I mean, most people go through financial hardship and stuff where you're in that like fight or flight response, and you're just, I've been in it for a while where it feels like sometimes I'm just in survival mode, and so can't think. And then when those things come intervene and there's an issue that comes up, and that hasn't happened for a little bit, but when the drinking or something else comes up, and it's like all of a sudden my body's in high nervous freaking, you know, And
JD, what you just did is the thing, because we can't solve a problem when we're like this.
Right.
Yeah.
No, right. But
We don't have any access, but we have to get the energy out. We've got to release it in a safe way so we can come back.
right. Well, I think a big thing too is coming down to it's in that survival mode, but a lot of people come in like talking about the nervous system and you're firing neurons and all that. A big thing from a place of all human beings, I believe in for the most part, most people genuinely come from the heart, right? And so they want to fix things, or when you're in a relationship, you really love that person. Like we've all had a moment where our heart was just crushed and felt like it was down at the pit of our stomach. That's like one of the worst feelings in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so when that stuff's going on, you're not essentially like protecting your mind at that point or anything. You're trying to protect your heart because of the love you have. And you just see, as you said, you're in your mind, in that spot, like in your cortex, you're thinking, yeah, I want to stop. Your body's like, nah, feed me, give me more. Right. And it's the opposite way where our heads are like, can't you stop? Or why can't you stop? And our bodies are like, you're shattering my heart right now. And there's nothing I can do to fix it. I'm just watching it happen.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, can I just say something about this? Such a beautiful example. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I could feel your heart in that. But the thing is that we don't fix things through our heart.
Right. We don't.
Right. And so we avoid the sensation of the heartbreaking. But then what comes out of our mouth is anger and frustration and making someone wrong, which is actually shattering the heart even more, but it's lessening the sensation because anger will beat love any day. That's why so many humans choose anger, because it's such an overwhelming, overpowering sensation in the body that it's easier to feel than heartbreak. Because just like you said, there's nothing worse than your pit in your stomach with your heart wide open.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I take that actually reminds me of being in the military stuff, talking about anger versus love. You know, again, if you have a drill sergeant or your lieutenant, captain, whoever, coming at you, and they are, usually they're very bold, direct, and they're yelling at you. Yeah, to like going through boot camp and stuff, getting yelled at. If they came up and they said, "Hey, would you kindly do 20 push-ups for me, please?" I don't think that would go over too well,
It's like,
that's not how it works.
Well, we don't know though, because we've been coded with it being this way for so long. Like we've coded our nervous systems that in order to perform, I work with a lot of military, and there's so much post-traumatic stress response.
Absolutely.
In their bodies, and there's so much pent up, and there's nothing more beautiful than watching, that strong core crack open and really get to see the heart. But we don't know if it'll ever be different because those systems are so strong to talk to young people that way that are joining the military. We don't know if it'll ever change.
I don't know. I just see it changing a little bit more now lately. It's kind of,
and
I do understand there's certain reasons behind it. Obviously, discipline's a huge important thing, but like, okay, there's a place and time for certain things to get things done. But that's just what it made me think of, was like, because you're not going to use that if you're out in the streets and you're in Iraq and you're in a gunfight and you'd be like, "Hey, time out.
Time out.
Hang on. Hey,
I'm out of bullets. Will you give me a chance to go get more?"
Yeah. Hey, I love you. You're just like me. We both put our pants on the same way. I'll be right back. I got to go grab 30 more rounds. Can you? And it's the same thing within a fight when you're dealing with a loved one or a significant other or anybody in the family or friend that's got an addiction problem, whether it be drugs or alcohol, or we have so many addictions out there. And it's that same way. Again, coming off as that drill sergeant, you're sitting there firing at them, and you can't be like, "Hang on a minute. I know I got something else coming to me that I got to say. Just hold it. Wait. Okay, there it is." You don't keep doing that way. It's that you instantly get into that. It's a survival mode. You're fight mode, fight or flight. And usually, typically, like I seen my wife in it, like I love her. There's like a fine line. And even with my sisters or like my parents that were in alcohol and drugs, like there's that fine line. Like it's almost like I'm in the fight mode because I'm trying to make them like, "Why are you doing this? It's hurting us, hurting me, or your child or whatever," to now I'm fighting them and they're in flight mode. Usually like right out of the gate, they're in flight mode.
Yes,
They're in this somewhat of a self-defense mode because they don't like being called out, but they're trying to just get away. And I'm like, no, we're going to freaking solve this right now. Now I've pinned them in the corner to where they turn to a fight stance. And now we've got two people fighting and I'm not willing to fight.
Yeah.
You know, it when Amy was sharing some of this stuff and what you were saying too, JD, have you guys tried to put two magnets together, you know, and how it's like the energy between the two are fighting each other?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt a lot of times, because I was trying to be the magnet and stick to her to get her to go, oh, I understand what he's saying, but that was never working. And I tried it for 7 years. You would think after the first year, it'd be like, this ain't working. You got to try something different. But I did it over and over and over and over, trying to put those two magnets together. And that energy just doesn't work. But Amy just gave a really good example, is because our brains are still working the exact same way as the other person. It's just working in a different, they're looking at it in a different way.
Yep, exactly. And until the pattern actually gets interrupted in a safe way to create safety between the two nervous systems that are involved, then the pattern will just continue to go the same way. Just like you're trying to put the magnets together, they're never going to go together.
Right.
Because that's energy. So two nervous systems are basically just energy. You know, I mean, and in the animal world, like we see this all the time. I'll sometimes play videos for people to see, like, look what's happening and look how they ultimately solve it. They either fight it out and then go breathe and then shake it out, or they, you know, kill each other and one eats it, or they're playing, which is another way of releasing nervous system energy. And then they play and then they start licking each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so they come back. But every single way that I'm explaining is letting the natural animal in us release. And that's, you know, what there's not enough of. And
Agreed.
I want to do something really quick that I seen, and this is just going with everything that's being talked about right now. But can I borrow your notebook?
Which one? This one?
Just do you have a blank paper that I can use in there?
Yeah. This is so fun.
When are you going to start bringing your own school stuff? Why are you always using my school supplies?
I apologize. Hey, this is how it always works. This is how I pass time.
Do you want the pen too?
Because I tell them, hey, no, I need the one with your notes on it. Oh, cool.
No. Oh, I think I know what he's going to do.
That's a long one. But what?
She can't see it. You got a magic marker, Brad?
Can you see what that is? What number is it?
An upside down 9 or a 6.
If you're looking at it, it's a 6, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long 6, but let's say it's a 6. Now, if you're looking at it, what do you see, Al?
I see a 9.
Okay, that's the biggest thing, is like, depending on what side you see, it's a 6, he sees it's a 9.
You might want to get by the mic.
Yeah, I'm working on that. But because you see that it's a 6, he sees that it's a 9. It's the same situation. And I seen this a couple days ago. And it actually stood out because the way that you might be seeing things too, again, I'm not on your side or standing on your side to see that you're seeing it's a 6.
Yeah.
Right.
It's making sense.
So sorry, that was just something, everything we've been talking about, that was something too that clicked, because trying to get on that side, like you were just saying, you know, going 7 years without changing anything. I mean, we've got the perfect definition of insanity, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you're like, if I just keep hitting it with this hammer, something's going to give, and it's not changing. So when you change and you go and step on that other side, I'm not saying that you got to be like, hey, you know, I'm going to give it a shot and down a fifth myself and see if we can't understand a little better
down to that level.
So, but stepping onto that side, meaning trying to look at it from their perspective, you know, like, again, you saying in your head, I don't want to be doing this, but my body it needs it to function. Yeah. So it reminds me of my in-laws. I love my in-laws dearly, but they love to drink, or they used to. They don't drink as much, but they still do. But I remember them, they got to a point, they're like, hey, they would get violent, like it would get bad. And they're like, oh, it was just the hot damn, so we're just going to drink vodka. I'm like, okay. All
Well,
right.
it's a down regulator for the nervous system. So, people, what you're talking about from the 6 and the 9 perspective too is that like you're not going to go on to the other side if you're in a fight mode and they're in a flight mode.
Right.
Right. And so the best time to have these conversations is when everyone is back into what we call a ventral vagal state, a flow state where their nervous system is taken care of, where they feel good, where they feel safe, where they feel connected, where they're neurocepting safety, 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 safety. And then we can have a conversation like, hey, buddy, can you come over here and look at what I'm looking at, which is a 6? And, can you really hear me? And
Right.
then can you repeat to me what you're hearing? So you can give me the opportunity to share with you if that's correct or not. Because as humans, we go around the world and we make assumptions based on our own unique history, experiences, and behaviors. But however, the way that I, see the world is through my unique history, experience, and behaviors. And then, there's 4 other nervous systems in your space right now who've all had their own unique history, experiences, and behaviors.
Right.
And so we're all going to interpret it from a different way. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing that's missing is like really healthy communication.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. And we can only speak from healthy communication when our nervous systems are feeling regulated. And that's what we forget. The only place that we can experience compassion from a nervous system place is from the ventral vagal place, which like this is the ladder of our nervous system behind me. And that pink and blue place up there is the only place that we can feel compassion. So when we're in these kind of arguments with our loved ones that we're seeing hurt themselves, we're usually in either a sympathetic place or we've just totally given up and we're in a collapsed place. And we're frozen. We just don't know what to do. You're just staring at the other person like, I don't know. I'm just watching you kill yourself. The only place that we can find compassion is from that safe, connected place. And that's what we forget. That's what we forget when we're in these situations. And the Al-Anon rooms are fantastic for so many reasons, but there's a bunch of nervous systems in there that aren't regulated and they all just agreeing with each other's patterns.
Yeah.
And so that by the end, they're just like, yeah, me too. And my kid did that. And my wife did that. And my husband did that. And it's like, okay, feels good to be seen, felt, and heard. That's a very important part of the process. But then how do we come back to compassion for everyone involved?
And we got to go to a quick break, but
Okay.
Before I think we should come back to that when we come back, because we almost get selfish. I go back and I look at the way that I acted a lot of times with my wife and what I know now. And I don't know if this is the right way of looking at it, but this is just how it's come across to me, that I was selfish in a way because I was thinking of my own feelings and not thinking of her feelings. And I think that's where those two magnets weren't, that's why they wouldn't connect. So guys, we're going to stop for a quick break. We'll be right back with Amy. So stay with us.
Okay. Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. Now the first half there's some great information being shared here. That's what I love about doing these shows. It's because the stuff you and I are learning, JD, I mean, we're learning a ton, right?
Oh,
to
yeah.
help our loved ones that have been battling and things. So yeah, this is just great stuff, great information. Before we get going here on the second half, we just want to say thank you to a few of our sponsors. We're getting a ton of them, which I'm very blessed and grateful for. Definitely want to say thank you to Brad Neufeld with Resilience Talk Network. And Amy brought up resilience earlier in her conversation. And it's kind of cool that she did that because Brad's radio station is called Resilience. And he named it that for a reason, like with what you said, Amy. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, Brad, thank you so much for opening your arms and believing in what we're doing here. We also want to say thank you to one of our new sponsors, Rick Keaton, attorney at law. He's personal injury. We hope no one gets in an accident out there, but if they do, please give Rick a call. And I can definitely vouch for this man because he's married to my daughter. He is an incredible man, incredible father, great husband. He will fight tooth and toenail for you. So Rick, thank you. We also want to say thank you to Austin and Cameron with Refiner Productions. You guys are incredible. Letitia and Kevin at Computer Hospital. We were just in their show their shop just a couple of days ago. If you guys need computer repairs, I would highly recommend going to Computer Hospital in Sandy. They're off of 8721 South State Street. We also want to say thank you to USARA, Utah Support Advocates of Recovery Awareness. Thank you for believing in our cause and for being here with us. Taffy Town, 100-year-old company here in Utah, third generation, and they've got more taffy flavors than you can shake a stick at. I could probably spend a half hour here naming off all the flavors that they have. Steve over at High Point Coffee in West Jordan, thank you. He's one of the guys that helped get this whole ball rolling. So Steve, thank you so much. Lift Up Concrete, Gregory and Tosh out in Kaysville. If you guys got to have sunken or settled concrete, please give them a call. And Surf Pro from Ogden all the way down to St. George. Brad, thank you so much for believing in what we're doing and for your support. So before we went to break, let me see. Let me get back to my notes here, and I just lost my spot. But we were talking about healthy communication, and I'm so happy that you brought that up, Amy, because learning how to communicate with my wife has been probably the biggest blessing out of all of this that has come through. Now, I can't say it's the top because her being sober is a great blessing. And she had her spiritual awakening, kind of like what we hear a lot of people who have been on this show talk about, that spiritual awakening that they've had. But that healthy communication, we've really learned a lot from that. And I know they teach that in AA, I believe, and rehabs and different things. A lot of the programs that she went through, I think, is what it was about communication. And I started using a lot more I statements when I communicate with her. Instead of me going, every time you do this, where I'm throwing everything back on her, to where I would say, this is how I feel when this is said. And it's really helped us. Now, sometimes we start pulling apart, but we recognize it and we're able to reel ourselves back in, because we would rather have that healthy communication than not, because it makes our lives much easier. So, I mean, this sounds like this is what you also teach when you help people to understand this healthy communication.
Absolutely. It's such an important part of being a human. When we come from a regulated nervous system, and when we come from a place where we have our access to our brain, it's pretty easy to be kind and generous with our thoughts and our feelings and everything. But when we're not, how we are going to disagree with people. Like, it is healthy, it's polarity, it's the way that it works. Like, if y'all didn't have fights, I'd be like, something's wrong, right? But to learn how to really communicate from a place of taking care of yourself, and then bidding for connection, and then that connection being mirrored to you in that way, and getting away from the lashing and clashing and shaming and blaming. And it's so much easier to shame and blame, because that protects. I'll go back to JD's example. Whenever we're fighting with someone, what I ask people to think about is, what are you avoiding feeling right now?
Hurt, pain.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so what comes out of your mouth is hurt and pain, because you're avoiding feeling it. But when we take a breath, when we take 5 minutes, I love a break. When you said, like, I'll just take a time out, I'll say, like, you know what, I need 10 minutes. I'll be back here in 10 minutes. Like, I always give people the time where I'll be back for the conversation, or sometimes I'm like, I need 24 hours and I'll be back here for the conversation. Like, I'm not leaving forever, so I don't activate their anxious attachment system. But it's the best thing to do, because then you have the ability to come back to your prefrontal cortex, to speak in I statements, to be clear, to be compassionate. The art of apology is something that I teach often, because the art of apology is actually very simple. There's so often an expectation or a gripping or a pulling that we want from the other person when we apologize. And you'll watch it today. Like, when you all go off into your world today, you'll be like, oh, it's happening right now, where someone's offering an apology, but really they're like waiting for something. They want something from you. It's not a real apology. It's basically saying some words to try to make it go away, to avoid the feeling of hurt, of pain, of grief, of sadness, of whatever we don't want to feel. Like, a lot of people in the recovery spaces on both sides don't want to feel joy. That's a scary feeling to feel, because it was sunny that day, and so we're going to drink vodka. So they're afraid to feel happiness. We create so many upper limits with our nervous system that we don't even realize. And then what comes out of our mouth is very unclear, because we're not really being honest with the most important person in our life, you.
Yeah.
And this is a deep conversation that I could really go into, but, just really asking yourself, like, what am I avoiding feeling? And am I really being honest here? And, I think in 12 step, they say something like, what's your motive? And that's a great question to ask, because you'll feel the energy in your body. When your motive is, I need something from them, you'll feel that. Yeah. When your motive is, I love you with all of my heart, then that's like magic, right? And I love what you said about the communication with your wife now, because, choosing abstinence is the foundation which makes the clear communication possible and deepens your relationship. And I would venture to guess, because I get to do this work with a lot of couples, that your connection is different and stronger maybe than it's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, it really has. And I like even how you said that sometimes you just got to walk away for 10 minutes. And I believe my wife and I have finally picked that up, because there's times where I will say something and she'll just tell me, she's like, you know what? I just don't want to talk to you right now. Well, before I would keep at it, I keep poking her with that stick, come on, come on. But now I've learned, okay, you don't want to talk to me. Okay, so I'll back off. And I'm the one that kind of gets into the silent treatment. I shut completely off.
Yeah.
And then also I'll start getting really busy. Like I'll start going around the apartment and I'll start cleaning things or shuffling around, because I'm wanting to release that energy. So I'm getting it out. And there's times it'll take me 24 hours. Sometimes it might even take me 48 hours to where I will go back to her and go, okay, you know what? I apologize. I definitely was the one in the wrong. When before I would do everything I can to basically point the finger at her, because she's not the one that made me feel the feelings that I'm feeling. I'm the one that are feeling the feelings that I'm feeling, if this makes sense.
It makes 100% sense.
So it takes so much time and practice and recognizing it. And this is another one of the blessings that have come out of my wife's addiction. I mean, they just keep building up. Instead of going back and looking at all the pain and all the bullshit and everything that we went through, we're now both even starting to go, you know what? Because of this is what's happened. Because of this is what's happened. And it's all on the positive side of things. This podcast wouldn't be happening right now if it wasn't for her. JD and I met back in 2018 or 2019 at a networking group, and we've connected, and it's like everything's happened for this reason. But the lessons that we've been learning from it, I mean, they're tough ways of learning the lesson, kind of like what you were talking about in the military. They're going to teach you a lesson. If you don't do what we're going to say, everybody's going to do 200 push-ups or whatever it may be, to get it in the brain. But as we start opening our minds and paying attention to it.
Well, and even being a kid, like I remember, discipline from the different fathers that were in our lives, like the way they handled discipline. One of them would get down, and I mean, he would not be very nice, So in that, instilling in your mind, like, if I do this, I'm going to get my ass whooped, or it's something. I mean, it almost got to a point where I felt like you did something stupid, like I'm getting punished for that. Are you serious? But in your head, you're so fearful, like everything's got to be, and you're walking on eggshells all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what it becomes in your relationship, is like you're walking on eggshells. And just like as you were talking again, communication, or, you shut down. And I would get to a point, like I finally got to a point where I'd back off and shut down. But I was also too in my head, like, how the mind works. It just seems that, we process thousands and thousands of thoughts per second, and I mean, you do that over the span of a day, so many things are processing. And so then you go home, and that's another problem you're dealing with. Well, in the back of your head, you're like, hey, well, I have this with work, I have this going on here on this project, I got this going on here, and now you want to add this bullshit on top of it. No, we're freaking solving it right now, because I can't take this on for tomorrow. And that's how my head used to work. Like, I've got so much shit back here to take care of and make sure everything else in our house is taken care of, that I don't have time to wait for you to want to solve this problem. Like, we need to figure it out and beeline it. And I would also, that's where that anger would come out and be like, no, like, I'm a very direct person. I've always been a black and white. I'm like, and it wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice straight line, but it was one of those things, like, I would not. And there's times of stuff where, like, I should have walked away. Like, when they were walking away, like I said, pushing them into the corner till they'll fight back. But it's like, I felt like that was the only time I'd get the response.
Yeah, well, and you were taught that as a young boy, and all of this is coded and imprinted on us between 0, 7 and between 0 and 12, let's say. Right. And so my work is about, I go straight there. Like, like that's the first place that we start. Because you had, first of all, a lot of different men in your life teaching you all these different things from dysregulated nervous systems, which doesn't feel good for a young little child's nervous system. So you started building protective coping mechanisms, which makes total sense. But that's like what keeps us in our patterns, is that we were coded with this, and it's so nuanced to start choosing differently because it's never been mirrored to you until it is. And then
Right.
when you start to see another brother, or like the two of you connecting in this beautiful way, then you can support each other from this different way to start choosing differently and choosing differently. And then that's how we have a more regulated world, and
That's how it
things
keeps
start to
growing.
actually shift. Yeah. And it takes that, because it starts one nervous system at a time. But a lot of us have felt yucky things from our childhood. And that the body keeps a score. It never forgets what happened to us. So sometimes if we're in a response, remember 80% is coming from just, you don't even know. You're not like really thinking it, you're neurocepting it. And so the body's like danger, 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 but you don't know what it's coming from.
Right.
A loud noise for a veteran is a really big deal,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, that's a great example of the neuroception, because then all of a sudden they can be back and they've lost some time. And if someone's not holding the container for them and saying like, hey, it's, November 18th, 2021, we're safe, we're in the studio, you're going to be okay. And usually people aren't. They're like, what's wrong with you? Right? Because it all comes down to no one wants to feel uncomfortable. So everyone's protecting themselves. And so
Right.
it comes, it's like hanging in the tension, feeling all that energy and staying calm. Like some of the people that I support are like, I'm really like turning into like the bigger person. And I don't know, it seems like a lot of work. Like,
Right. No,
Yeah.
I mean, again, on that thought right there too, a lot of people, like trying to clean up or take that different approach and stuff. Like when you have to, on your side, and you've had to do this, obviously growing into the career that you have, and that you said that your trauma started back from when you were younger, correct?
yeah.
And so you're talking about the neurons that were programmed back then to respond in certain ways. You've had to it's like breaking a habit, but reprogramming and refiring and developing new paths for those neurons to take a different way, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I call it regrooving. It's so the methodologies that I use, I coined as regrooving. So I'm going to trademark that soon.
Hey,
Yeah.
there you
Yeah,
go.
I
But
love
it's,
that.
it is, yeah, it's regrooving. And I called it that because it's more fun, right, than rewiring. But regrooving's like, you think of a record, you think of like fun, because that's what we're doing. And the opposite of trauma is play. And so, really playing and becoming the animals that we are is such an important part of this process. Because if it's not fun, if it feels like you're getting yelled at to do 200 push-ups, like it's probably not going to last.
No,
Right?
but you'll get
Like,
it done, because every time you drop, you restart, and that's not fun
right.
either. So,
But do you still do 200 push-ups every day?
no.
Yeah.
I mean, in my
That's what I
brain,
mean.
Two.
in my brain, I feel like I do 1,000, but yeah, no. But
Yeah, but I mean, these patterns, they have to stay with us. Thrive in recovery is a way of life, right?
right,
Like I don't choose to not drink one day. I choose not to drink every moment of every day, right? So that regroove can't be done with force, because if it is, it won't last. The regroove that I have done, like, and that I help people to do, is not done with force, so that it can last.
have you
Right.
read the books by David Dr. Hawkins?
I have, yeah.
So Power versus Force or Letting Go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what made what you were just talking about made me think of Power versus
Yeah.
Force.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well,
I haven't read it in a while.
I was on
Yeah.
a coaching call from one of our recent guests that have been on the show. I did this little training with her, and she said something that really resonated with me the other day. She goes, "Success starts from inside."
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I wrote that down and like circled it like 20 times, because I mean, really, when you start paying attention to what's going on inside you, and again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not in the line of work, it's just stuff that I'm learning, but I have found out that when you start taking the feelings like those pits and stuff in your stomach and you learn how to control that, life is getting better. Little by little, I'm starting to notice different things that I wouldn't let eat me up. I won't let it eat me up now like I used to let, eat me up.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with words today. I don't know why, but so yeah. With if I could here, Amy, really quick, if we could kind of reel it back a little bit. What was your aha moment that basically just where you said, enough's enough with the addiction thing? Because I'm finding so many beautiful things that have come out of people who have battled addiction. I mean, I really am. There's people like yourself, Amy, who now have taken all your pain and all the stuff that you went through to help others, give them a roadmap to help them each step, in a healthy way, not in an unhealthy way, because you lived it, you know what it takes. But I know what my wife's aha moment was, it came when she was sitting in a jail cell, basically. And still it took a day or so after that before that light bulb really went off. But what was it for you? What was that aha moment? And what shifted, and how long did it take for you to shift to go, you know what? I want to take what I went through now and start helping other people.
Yeah, that's a great question. The first time I went to treatment was in 2014. And I started writing the regrooving methodologies from my bed in that treatment center. And I started putting in all the things that I knew I was going to need to really live this lifestyle and stay abstinent from my favorite coping mechanism. But then it took 2 years. The aha moment happened after I was really trying to kill myself with the perfect combination of alcohol and Xanax, but it just would not work. And I tried many different times. And I failed at it again. My parents had kidnapped me and were trying to fix me. And I was like, oh my God, This is so not working. This is making everything worse. But I was actually right here in Rockport. And I was just I had stayed out all night with some people drinking, and I went back in and I was like, you know what? I got to get out of your hair. I'm going to treatment and I'm done. And I was I blew over a 4 when I got to treatment, but I had all my notebooks and all of my ideas. And I said, will you please let me do it my way? I will go to all the classes. I'll do everything. Just keep me safe for 30 days. And now I've got this. And 3 months later, I started my business.
Wow.
Yeah, I was ready. And because I knew that this time no one was going to convince me that their way was better than mine, right? Because it's not. I took in all the ways. I did Smart Recovery, I did 12-step, I did Life Ring, I did all the things. I studied them all. And then I took all of the things that I wanted from all those different places and I put them together for a new way of living for my nervous system. And yeah, that was my light bulbish moment.
Okay.
Really, I was just I didn't die. So I decided I would live like I've never lived before.
Wow. And I think that's one of the cool things and the blessings that come out of recovery, because there's other people like Tamar, Tamar, you've been on her show. She took different things of her addictions and now she's using it to help others, because you just stated on it. You did what you needed to do, what worked for you, because not every single program is going to work for every single person. But people like yourself that are getting out there and helping others, and people like Tamar and people like Vanessa and Sarah and Debbie and all these other people that we've met by doing this show, they all have different ways of doing what they do, but they're successful doing it. Because I could go to your class, JD, and it may not resonate, but I can go to Brad's class and maybe
he could say, and I've seen that where they could say the exact same thing,
but
almost word verbatim. And somebody's like, oh, hey, that makes sense. And I'm like, wow.
Well, and some of that does happen. Yeah. Because especially with marriage. Yeah, I know that, but yeah, it's just what's comfortable. So again, and I don't know if I'm right or not, but we've had a couple guests that say, I don't know why God saved me and other people that I partied with. They're no longer here with us, but they're taking what they've learned and now they're out there helping other people. And I think the more people that are coming out of this addiction and going into what they are doing to help other people, I mean, it opens up so many resources for people. If this one doesn't work, try this one. That one doesn't work, try this one, because there's so many different methods out there. And studies now, people have been studying. We had a gal on the show who is the founder of a place here in Mount Pleasant, Utah. It's like an hour and a half away from Salt Lake City. She started a company called Matter Behavioral, and she has studied the brain like this gal, she gets talking and you think you're talking to Dr. Hawkins, because she is just into it so much. Matter of fact, they've got one of their classes going on today and tomorrow.
Down there in Mount Pleasant?
No, it's here at the salt mine.
Okay.
But yeah, and they're seeing such a huge success. They've been in business for 20 years. And in 20 years, they've only had 12 people relapse after going through their program. And I mean, that's great. And we've got the other side academy, they do things completely different. It's a 2-year program. You have committed program. They're seeing great success. So I love to see all these different resources and people like yourself, Amy, who have gone through the battle and struggle, because I don't know what you've gone through. I don't know what JD's sister went through. I don't know what really my wife went through, or not understanding it, but I can start getting bits and pieces a little bit more that help. And that's what's great about even doing this show, is giving these people a little bit more information to say, hey, if you got a loved one that's struggling, Amy was on our show, man. She lived it.
Right.
This is what she did, and my wife, this Janan, she likes me to call her Janan instead of my wife. I think she's getting tired of that. So whenever I call her my wife, she gives me that look. She's like, I have a name, but anyways. So yeah. So thank you for what you're doing, Amy.
And if I can, Amy, back to what you mentioned, one thing that stood out very clear to me was you hit a point, you're out drinking with your friends or whatever, or you were out drinking and you had that ha-ha moment, like, okay, you're going to do this, went and told your family or whatever that, hey, I'm going to do this, but I got to do it my way, or I got to do it on, but at that point you realized to yourself, it wasn't like it was a thing being forced by your parents or by somebody else that, hey, you need to go to rehab, you need to go do this. You came to a point for yourself. And I think that's where that success happens, is when it's that choice that you've made it for yourself to become sober, that you're going to go get the help, and that you've recognized it, and that you decided, hey, now it's time for me. Not because they're like, hey, you're going to rehab, see you at Tuesday at 10 a.m. And you're like, all right.
Hell if I am.
I'll sleep there for 30 days. Yep. Bill the insurance. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to treatment like 8 times. So
seeing that's a huge thing. And I tried getting my sister to treatment, and we'll go to break here in just 2 seconds. But
yeah,
I tried getting my sister to go to treatment 2 years ago in November. It's the last conversation I actually had with her. And she's going through a bad spot. She's in alcohol and very heavy into opioids. And she was like, I got this. And I just had my baby and stuff too, not too long before. And I didn't want her around when she was intoxicated or high. I didn't want her being around. It didn't feel good with my kids. Anyways, I told her, I was trying to get her to go to a rehab out of state, away from family, anything. I was like, look, I'll help you. I was like, even if you don't have the funds, I was like, go file bankruptcy. I don't care. Like, you got to do help. And she's like, no, I got this. She's figuring crap out. And we had a good conversation. She was sober, and told her I loved her, and that it wasn't that I was coming at her because I'm mad at her. Like, I just wanted her to be okay, because I wanted her to be around. And unfortunate events, my sister passed away about 2.5 weeks after that conversation from an overdose. And so, like, making that choice, it's one of those things, like, I couldn't force it upon her, and I knew that I couldn't. Like, she had to make that decision for herself. And so, and those moments come where it's like, God, if I would have pushed her, or I could have, who knows if it would have happened quicker, or if it would have just extended a little bit more time until it did happen, but unfortunate events. So being in that spot when somebody makes that choice, you made that choice and look where you're at now.
Yeah.
again,
And that's where the
kudos.
and that's where the awakening is, because some people's journey is that they're going to have a short life, in
Yeah.
that body. And it's really hard because on the other side of it, like, we want to save them. And, I can only save my own life.
Right.
And I'm very clear about that. So I guide people back to their truth. And your sister,
Yeah, she's
feeling
26
that.
years old when she passed away. And so, like, again, very young life, very short life, And I mean, she went
Yeah.
through a lot of anxiety, depression, social anxiety, stuff like that. And so, I mean, it was really hard to obviously deal with. She was a really close friend. Like, when my parents got into drugs really bad, me and her were what held it together. And unfortunately, years down the road, she ended up going down that same road because she felt like it was the only way, in a sense, and this is what I feel and believe, is it was a way for her and my mom to bond, because when my mom was down that road, it was like a disconnect and she needed acceptance from the parent side of things. And so that was the only way she felt like she could get it. And unfortunately, it led down to a road where she's no longer with us. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And like what your intuition tells you, there's science behind it, because it's looking for that connection. And
Yeah.
connection is one of the things that we absolutely, it's a biological imperative that we feel connected, especially to our caregivers. So we'll spend our whole life seeking that connection. And you'll see people do it who have no substance misuse things, do it with partners, where they keep
I used to
choosing
do
their dad
it
or
all
their
the
mom.
time.
We got to go
Yeah.
to a break.
Oh yeah.
so-
Okay.
Yeah. Because we've got 9 minutes now left before we gotta let you go.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna go to a quick break, guys. We'll be right back.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffy Town, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffy Town. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffy Town is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffy Town stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffy Town and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account, and we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffy Town can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer prepackaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com. That's taffytown.com to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the last half of the show, Other Side of Addiction. This has been a great show. Lots of great information. Amy, we are so blessed and honored to have you on the show today. So thank you so much for being with us today. Your knowledge and what you're sharing, I know, is going to help a ton of people, and the work that you're doing as well. So before we get, I had to cut JD off really quick, but I do want you to finish. But we just want to say thank you to a couple more sponsors. We definitely want to say thank you to Affiliate Solar. JD, thank you so much for your sponsorship with this. Thank you. We also want to say thank you to Troy Hoddle with I Am Ninja Power Real Estate, Tatiana Rose with Advanced Business Bookings, and TJ McLeland with Fitness Realty. So guys, and again, Brad, thank you for all your support. And thank you to my wife, Janine. Thank you for believing in what we're doing here, and for all your support and your patience, because I spent a lot of time working on this podcast, and she's being very patient with me. So thank you, babe. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, JD, you want to finish going, and then we'll give Amy a chance to let all our listeners know how they can find her.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Again, and Amy, again, I was just going back to the fact of recognizing a point in your life that you admitted that you needed help, but you knew it for yourself, not because somebody forced you onto it, and that's what you're talking. You can't force them. And unfortunately, again, certain lives are shorter than others. I think about all the time. I grew up cutting cattle, and what they mean by that is herding them up in the hills, And so doing that stuff with the old farm boys, that smoked like a chimney, drank like a chimney, and they're up there at 90 years old on a horse they run circles around me. And I'm like, Howard, are you still alive? And then you got unfortunate events of a younger person and what happens in society and stuff, and seeing that it's like, you had so much to give, so much value. And my sister, she tried to she recognized it at certain points because she started speaking and doing live videos. And she started doing it because I was doing it. And anyways, so she had those videos and she created an Instagram page called Create Magic, and it's spelt in a weird way, but she's just trying to create a positive influence group, right? Like she knew she was trying to uplift and trying to get out, but she thought in her head too, she thought she could do it all on her own. She didn't need any help from anybody, whether it be family, friends, a stranger, rehab. She was like, nope, I can do this. And it was unfortunately, again, one of those things that it won her. So
Yeah.
Very real.
Well, and like you said too, JD, it's the first time my wife went to a rehab, she did it because of me. Second time she went to a rehab, she did it because of me. I think even the third time, me not knowing all of them, basically. Yeah, she's saying all of them, but it had to be done on her own. It had to be her choice. And the word fix has been brought up a couple times. And I remember her sister said that once to her when she was visiting her rehab, and my wife just freaked. She's like, fixed? Because she asked her, have they fixed you yet? And my wife just come on course. She goes like, I ain't broken. I am not broken, but that's how us on the outside of it, that's how we see things, right? Which is totally wrong.
well, and as human beings, though, naturally we want to fix things. When you see somebody struggling, going through a hard time, if you have the ability and capabilities to be able to fix it, you want to. As a natural human being, that's how we were naturally programmed, is to be humane. That's why we're not a lion. That's how we're. We're not.
She's got something else.
I'll argue with you a little bit, because we weren't naturally trained to fix. If we look back at our indigenous cultures, the way that when someone was struggling, they gathered around them and they listened to them and they came closer. And so there's a great movie called Crazy Wise that really illustrates that. We have gotten into a world where everything needs to be fixed because it's consumerism. It makes sense. It makes us buy things. It's like the fixing of things. But when things like this happened in the indigenous cultures, everyone would gather around. The shaman, the elder would come in and really use a lot of plant medicines, like all of the things. So it was more like animals. And, like that's what trauma work really is coming back to more of those roots of the body and listening to the body. Because you're right, we've been totally conditioned to want to fix everything. I mean, the window is a perfect example.
Yeah,
like,
you shared.
Right. It's like, yeah, but we're not like
3 minutes.
I am deconditioning that in our recovery space, because, as people say, like, it hurts to say you're broken, you need to be fixed. Like, we're human beings, we're very dynamic and very complicated in some ways, but we're also very simple. And the three things that we want are to feel safe, to feel connected, and to feel loved. And when someone says you need to be fixed, you don't feel any of those things, right? And then that creates more separation. So yeah, it's, like, we got to change the world, y'all.
Right.
Like, more podcasts like this.
Yeah. Podcasts like this and the work that you're doing. I mean, and like Tamar, so many people, we're just so blessed to meet people like yourself, Amy, really to see what you're doing out there to help so many people. And I mean, that's what JD and I want to do too. And I know that's what my wife wants to do. Brad, he's worked with youth and things. We want to start changing things. We want to get rid of this stigma. And it's so great to see how many people out there are actually doing that. They're working with other people to open their eyes and help one another, and I love how you said how back in the times, how people came together to help somebody. And I know they had to have learned it from the animals, by them watching, because that's who they didn't have a book to pick up, right? They didn't have a doctor or a scientist. They had to learn from that. And we as humans are animals as well, but we've just let things get way, way out there. So, Amy, I know we want to respect your time. Yeah. So thank you so much again for being here and getting back with me, and offering your time to be here on the show with us, because it was very special for me. And I believe JD, and my wife's been over here with the headphones on the side, and she's really been into what she's shaking her head like this or like this, so she was feeling everything that you were saying. We always like to give our guests an opportunity to share what they have. You work with people. If one of our listeners is going through something and certain things aren't working for them and they wanted to contact you, how can they find you? Do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook page?
Yeah. So every resource that you can think of is all the same. It's at Thrive and Recovery with Amy, Facebook, Instagram, a website. There's all kinds of different things there. I really feel like people connect with me through my voice and through video. Like I'm a clean transmission when I'm here, right? So people really like to go to my Instagram, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos there where you can really get the essence of who I be and what I stand for. And my work is all about guiding people to their truth. Like in no way do I claim to have some kind of method that is anything other than really reminding someone and of their power. And it's underneath all of the traumatic responses that we've had. And in anything, and I always want to say this to listeners as well, is like the only thing that you actually need is to feel safe in your therapeutic relationships, in your coaching relationships. Safety is everything. If you have safety, then that's where the magic will happen with your sisters, Instagram. It's like, that's what the magic is created through safety. Because when the nervous system feels safe, then you're able to find your truth again. And that's what my work's all about.
That's really great advice, because I was going to ask you if you could share something with our audience before we signed off, and you just said it. I mean, you just nailed it right on the head. And before we let you go, what we've talked about today, and you're saying that you help people dig down deep and realize what they have. We all have it inside of us. All of us do. It's not lost. It's not forgotten. Maybe we have forgotten how to pull it out, or maybe we don't know how. So, listeners, people like Amy, she's done it. She's living proof. And if you're struggling, look for somebody like Amy, find her on the social media, on Instagram, watch her videos to help you, because we all need help. Do not be embarrassed to get help, because we all need it. And don't be embarrassed to talk with somebody. We can all be weak. You deserve to be weak at times, and you can be upset. We all deserve to be upset at times. The trick is, don't hang on to it. Let it go. Release that energy. Find something that works for you. So,
and with that being said, again, for any of our listeners that are out there, I'd just like to remind you, if again, you found this podcast valuable to you, and if you know somebody else that needs to hear it as well, please like and make sure to share it with others. And we look forward to having more people on here. And again, thank you so much, Amy. Again, it was definitely a pleasure and an honor to have you here. So thank you.
We wished you were here to give you hugs. All of us in this room are great big huggers. we love hugging and having the energy out here. But Amy, God bless you. And thank you for doing the work that you were doing. I know that you are touching many, many lives. So thank you for being here with us. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, everybody. Stay tuned. We've got more great shows coming here. And we just want to say, hey, thank you to all our listeners for all your support. So as we say at the end of every show, remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.